Hi, everyone. I'm Adrian Miller, Executive Director of the Colorado Council of Churches, and thank you for joining us for this Lunch on Learn, which is not on barbecue and urban farming, but is actually about safe lots. And we're so glad to have some distinguished guests here to kind of talk to you about what your congregation might do for this innovative way to help people who are experiencing homelessness. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Rebecca Arno.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to you all. And we're so pleased to be connecting with you today to talk about helping our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness and living in their vehicles. I'm Rebecca Arno, and I'm with the Barton Institute for Community Action. We are the fiscal sponsor for the Colorado Safe Parking Initiative, and I serve on the initiative's board along with Bill, and Linda was a previous board member. The Barton Institute's mission is to work with community members to create safe places where they can build lives with more opportunities to thrive. And CSPI, as you can imagine, fits squarely within that mission. Thus, we're providing our fiscal sponsorship services free of charge currently, and also making a financial investment in CSPI. Joining me today are Bill Sweeney and Linda Behringer, both founding board members of CSPI, and Linda has stepped away to act as our program development consultant, stepped away from the board, but not nearly away from CSPI. I think she spends, I don't want to know how many hours she spends on CSPI every week. And Bill and Linda each have deep expertise in the area of homelessness services and many, many years of experience. We're very fortunate to have them. Bill is a Boulder-based attorney who works with many groups, including Bridge House in Boulder. Linda spent many years as a program director for Family Tree in Jefferson County, which many of you may know, and she's a former chair of the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative. So safe parking. This is a new approach here in Colorado. At the beginning of 2020, last year, there were no SafeLots in Metro Denver, and now there are 10. We're going to be sharing with you today an overview of the need for the services provided by safe parking. We're going to be giving you a description of our model and telling the story of our current activities in the metro area. And then we'll end with plenty of time for questions. We're also very willing to send you specific resources on how your congregation might consider moving forward with creating a safe lot. This is a nuanced conversation and different in every neighborhood and community. So what we're going to ask is that if you're interested, please put your email address in the chat. We'll take note of it and we'll send you follow-up materials. And I'll remind you about this at the end of the conversation as well. You also can get in touch with us at any time at info@colosafeparking.org. Thanks for that. So now we're going to get started with our presentation, and I am going to turn it over to Bill, who is going to share information about the need. Is everyone able to see the PowerPoint? Okay, so here we go. Bill, it's over to you.
Great. Okay, thank you. Can you all hear? Yes, you can all hear me. I'm not on mute, I think. Good. So there are a lot of people, as we all know, who are unhoused here in Denver. Now, we think the population might be in the 12 to 14,000 range. It might include 30,000 individuals in the course of a year. It's hard to get a good number and a down to the penny number because simply it's hard to count everyone. There are many people are not particularly reachable. Those who are living in their cars are especially difficult to reach. And that's primarily because they aren't welcome anywhere. Virtually all shelters and programs are not equipped to handle people who drive up rather than walk up for a variety of reasons. And I understand them. I've run shelters for years, which is not, it's not a selfish choice. It's a management choice. Most people who are unhoused but have a vehicle realize that that vehicle is their last major asset, and it's packed. It's completely packed with the last things that they own, and it's far bigger than a backpack. And so it's a vital thread to the life of being housed. And most people who are living in vehicles have been unhoused for a short time. They may still be employed, or they may be seeking employment. Most are employed. And it's a relatively easy path for them to become fully employed and to reestablish housing with one basic thing, and that is stability of life. And once one can get out of the daily pressure of hiding and surviving and get into a safe, stable environment, it may only take 30, 45 days to become employed, to become housed, and to move on with one's life, put unhoused behind one. So we say here that there are hundreds of people living in vehicles in Metro Denver, and that's because a count taken almost 2 years ago identified hundreds of people, about 600 or 700. That count was at the time known to be an undercount. We spot checked it in 2 counties, in Boulder County and in Jefferson County, by taking careful, extensive counts. And we felt that it was probably between, probably around half, maybe as high as 2/3 of the number that existed at that time. So probably before the pandemic, we were looking at 1,000, 1,100 people living in their vehicles in Metro Denver. As a result of the pandemic, there has been a slowdown at the rate that people are getting into housing. There's been an increase at the rate that people are becoming unhoused. There's a growth in the community. Because of the pandemic, we did not have a census this past year for those who are unhoused. And so we are estimating that we are closing in on perhaps as many as 2,000 people living in their vehicles here in Metro Denver, and almost all of them outside the systems of support that they could be accessing if their circumstances were even more dire. Virtually everyone is employed, although many are underemployed. They can't make the hours that they used to make when they were housed, or they can't hold that job, and so they're holding a lesser job. Many of them have chosen to remain with their vehicles because the alternative of shelter does not allow families to stay together as a general rule, does not allow couples to stay together, does not allow people with pets to retain their pets, and they aren't prepared to lose those portions of their life at this point. Most of them are homeless for the first time. And the sad thing is that because of their situation, their struggle to try to retain what they can of their unhoused situation in hopes of becoming rehoused disconnects them from services. It doesn't accelerate their path through services. The life of someone who is living in a vehicle in Metro Denver or anywhere else is very difficult. There are a whole lot of very risky things that happen to people who are sleeping in the dark, hidden. And since they are hiding from the police because they don't want a police record, they often can be victimized simply because those who choose to prey on them realize that they won't be spotted. The long-term consequences are full homelessness without even the asset of the vehicle and the extra belongings that might be in a vehicle, and a descent into chronic homelessness, which is a very, very difficult situation for the individual and a difficult situation for our society. If you could move me ahead on the slides, please. Thank you. So we have seen in the past year and a half, almost 2 years of the pandemic, that not only is living in a vehicle the consequence of the precariousness of our society now, but that those who live in vehicles are at increased risks of disease because they are not in the orbits of sanitation and services. Surprisingly enough, and this is kind of a hard thing for us to grasp, as a general rule, the level of COVID infection in the unhoused communities, in most communities nationwide, is lower than the level of infection in the general population. And you would ask, why is that? We all sort of intuitively think that those who live in the unhoused population are at great risk, and they are at great risk of disease. And they're at great risk, for example, of tuberculosis. However, COVID is primarily passing in the main population. And because of the barriers that exist, the shunning, literally, of the homeless population, it is not spreading across the barrier at the same rate as it spreads within the mainline population. So we do have some insulation, sadly, simply because people are outside the system, but it isn't very much. And the risks of diseases other than COVID, because of living without proper sanitation and without showering and all of that sort of thing, are quite high. So you can see here that our regional director, Rick Garcia, who now is directing the HUD matters for our 7-state region, he focuses on housing insecurity, and he is right. There are statistics that hold him up. It is one of the most concerning byproducts of the pandemic. Thank you.
So let's look a little bit at the model that Colorado Safe Parking is using. The Colorado Safe Parking Initiative is based on a model that was first launched on the West Coast several years ago in communities like Santa Barbara and San Diego. Here in Metro Denver, we work with local congregations to put their parking lots to use in the overnight hours. Usually these are hours people arrive between 6 and 8 p.m. and leave between 6 and 8 a.m. And are not there during the day. We work to create small dispersed lots that don't have a big impact on the surrounding community. The size of the lots ranges from 3 to 20 cars at this point, and each lot has access to bathroom facilities of some kind, usually porta potties. Linda will talk more about our specific lots here in Metro Denver in her portion of the presentation. We do have coordinated entry through our website at colosafeparking.org, and we also work with 211, which makes referrals to us. And that coordinated entry allows us to keep track of who is looking for space in our lots, and then we work with the lot operators to help place people in the lots, including doing background checks. Right now, however, we are only able to place about 10% of the people who call us who are looking for space in a lot. And Linda will share some numbers with you later that can demonstrate the breadth of the need that we're experiencing and are involved with. So then once folks are in the lot, our model is that we provide them with housing navigation and access to other services through case management. And we work with local service providers to provide case managers. This model is important because it does two things. It keeps people connected to the community where they live and work, and it also helps them to gain access to the services that they need, and often helps them to return to housing much more quickly. So the benefits to our guests are significant. We call the folks who sleep in our lots guests versus clients. And we feel strongly that it is important to have a trauma-informed and human-based model in terms of how we relate to folks who are in this particular experience of vehicular homelessness. We were fortunate to work with the University of Denver's Center for Housing and Homeless Research to study our model when we first put it out into the community last year. And in those first months, we learned that our model provides folks with increased sense of safety, security, and stability, that people have more access to services. They are often able to keep or get employment because they're no longer looking for a place to sleep every night. The residents of the lots themselves also quite wonderfully, I think, create a community of support with each other. And that is often augmented by the host congregation providing care and connection with those individuals. And that looks different in every congregation, and Linda can talk more about that. But that connection really also can help people as they're seeking to address the issues related to surviving when you're experiencing homelessness. The benefits to the community are also equally significant. Giving people a safe place to park means there are less unauthorized parkers in our community. That's certainly something that we are looking to improve. It decreases crime. It gives savings in terms of emergency health care and policing costs. And all of this is done in a very cost-effective way. We're still looking at the model and developing a sense of what the specific costs are for doing a safe lot, because they can vary widely depending on what services a particular congregation chooses to put together for a lot. Whether the model includes just porta potties or includes meals and security and lots of other extras, storage space, et cetera, this is still an incredibly cost-effective model compared to other types of services that, and especially compared to building affordable housing, which we cannot build fast enough to serve, obviously, this population. So we're also, because the folks are in these lots, we're able to learn much more about them as they're gaining access to services and to gather more comprehensive data on this particular population. Bill talked a minute ago about the challenges with creating counts, and this population has remained just one of the most undercounted and underserved populations because literally their job as a person with vehicular homelessness is to hide in plain sight. And so we are not finding them to be able to count or provide them with services. So we're really looking at that as a huge benefit of these safe lots. So now I'm going to hand it over to Linda, who's going to share with you more about CSPI and how we've been growing throughout Metro Denver since our founding just over a year ago. So Linda, over to you.
Thanks, Rebecca. So just to take a half step backwards, I'll give you a little bit of a history about the origination of Colorado Safe Parking Initiative. It started around the fall of 2019 with several people who were aware of the models of safe parking that were going on in California and recognized the need in the Metro Denver area. So they started an initiative. It was volunteer-based, and it was a group of advocates who just got together to just think about how can we replicate this model in our area and what do we need to do. So that's the origin of safe parking. We opened the first lot in March of 2020, and we can go to the next slide. So what CSPI has come to offer over its development since the fall of 2019 is we offer a single point of entry, and that is where anyone who's seeking assistance, who's living in a vehicle, can call or email us, and we will reach back out to them and do a short interview and determine where they need to be, if there's a safe spot in that area, and more importantly, is there a vacancy? But it's a central clearinghouse that's easy to find. If a person Googles, I need safe parking or just safe parking, they will be directed to us. So we know that we are easy to find. And so I mentioned we do a screening, and then that results in a referral to the safe lot. Each safe lot has their own interview crew that in a meeting, each congregation that's set up to be a safe lot does their own interview and makes a decision whether this person seems like a fit for their community. And if a safe lot is not available to a person, we provide other referrals and resources to those folks. Currently, as Rebecca mentioned, we're only able to place about 10% of the requests that we get. Last month, in July, we received 140 calls for assistance, which was almost triple the highest previous month. We started taking calls in October, and our highest month since October had been about 60 calls in a month for help. And in July, it was 140, which is a little unnerving, I might add, if it's a predictor of what's to come. So because we're only able to place about 10% of those calls, obviously indicates a need for more and more sites across the Metro Denver area. And so we can serve more people. The CSPI also coordinates with the site hosts, helping them get their lot up and running, sharing best practices in the existing lots. We hold a meeting with all the lot operators so they can share the successes, the challenges. We try to be supportive every step of the way and ongoing as well, so that once a site becomes a safe lot, they're not just on their own trying to figure out what may come each day. So we provide that support and coordination and technical assistance and also the case management. We support the case managers that are provided to every existing lot. That's the plan, and is to have that extra support. And that has only been introduced in the last since May of this year, where we were able to provide case management, and it's made an incredible impact on the folks in the lot. We've seen the most. Well, I'll go into what we see of the folks in the lots in the next slide. So this is where our current lots are. We have Boulder County, we have Longmont, Broomfield, Jefferson County, Golden, and Arvada. We have a lot in Aurora that just opened May 31st, lot in Denver that opened July 15th. And there are other operating lots in the state of Colorado, one in Summit County, and lots, from what we understand, that are in progress in Fort Collins, Colorado Springs, and Greeley. We do get calls to our central intake line and Colorado Safe Parking Initiative from all parts of the state. But predominantly, we get a lot of calls from Fort Collins, Colorado Springs, and Greeley. So it's good to hear that they are working on lots in those areas. So predominantly of the lots, as Rebecca mentioned, range in size from 3 to 7 cars, although there's a 20-car lot in Aurora. We have mostly singles or couples, adult couples. We have some families. Most of the lots are set up to serve one population or the other. We have one lot that does serve families and singles, but most of the lots are one or the other. We have 2 lots that are able to take RVs. The rest of the lots are cars only. The RV lots are special to us because living in an RV has become a way of life for families who can't afford housing in the Metro Denver area. So the problem is they acquire an RV and then there's nowhere to park that's affordable. To park in an established RV lot is about $1,200 a month. So it's completely prohibitive. So we're really grateful to have these RV lots to help these families out. About 40% of the people parking in our lots have pets, which, as Bill mentioned, is one of the reasons people are in their vehicles, because there's no shelters that people can stay in that will allow their pets. There's often not a shelter, splits up families as well. Couples can't stay together. Older children aren't allowed in some shelters. So we see that in the people who use our safe lots, that they are in their cars for those reasons. About half of the people are employed or underemployed. The other half are people with disabilities. some serious illnesses, strokes, diabetes, cancer, a lot of serious illnesses that have left these folks unable to afford housing and living in their vehicles. And I can tell you that it's pretty heart-wrenching to see someone with an illness where their legs swell and they're sleeping in their car, sitting up, and or we had a gentleman who had a prostate problem and needed to have access to a bathroom. And before the Safe Lot, he was left to trying to find bathrooms in the middle of the night, which during COVID was impossible. So we were really glad to be able to provide him with a place to park where he had access to a bathroom all night long. So since I mentioned I was going to talk about what we've seen with the case management. Well, the most frequent needs that we're hearing from people are, these were the most common requests since of our tracking so far, was for food, showers, gas, and car repairs. That was our most frequent request for assistance. Beyond that, though, which are, those are basic needs. Beyond that, though, we've been able to hook people up with medical care. We've even been able to support them during surgical procedures that they needed. We've been able to put some mental health services in place. We have mental health services coming to the lot. We have public health department coming to the lot, providing COVID and other harm reduction services. We have partnerships with pet services, providing food and supplies and vet services, and some respite care. We've had some folks who needed to go in the hospital, and their pet services took care of the animals while they were in the hospital. We've had people get some great jobs, which is really encouraging, and we've had people move into housing, which is our ultimate goal for most of the folks, is to help them move into housing. So the model is working. I had this just happened last week, but I had a case manager from the Denver Street Outreach come and tour one of the lots, and he told me that this was an outreach case manager's dream, to be able to provide case management to the folks in the Safe Lot, because he was able to find them. He was able to make appointments with them and have ongoing services. When he's doing street outreach, he often can't, he may meet with someone once, but he can't locate them after that. So to make anything happen is difficult. But in the Safe Lots, people generally stay several months or more. And so you can provide some real services and see some real progress. So this was kind of not unexpected, but we didn't really acknowledge it in the beginning, that Safe Lot was going to provide a place that outreach could really happen and success. So let's see. So this is the statement slide speaks for itself. This was taken from a news broadcast, I believe, on Channel 9. Someone's statement, and she speaks to the fact that you feel like you belong. They absolutely, communities are forming in these Safe Lots, and they watch out for each other. They provide the security for most of the lots. Most of the lots do not have on-site security because it's not needed. The people in the Safe Lot are the eyes on not only the Safe Lot itself, but the surrounding community, and they want to be safe and have a good night's sleep. So they're going to do what needs to be done. And if something is happening, they're going to report just to either the Safe Lot operator or the police if need be. But on that note, we've had very, very few incidents in the lots that are operating. So you can go to the last slide. So I hope some of these stories and this information has sparked your interest. I've heard from the congregations that are operating Safe Lots just an overwhelmingly positive response about how they feel about their ministry and that it's expansion of it. And I don't mean that they're converting people or anything of that nature, but they feel like where the ministry stands for them and their mission, that they're able to do that with providing these services to these folks. The dream of it all, as Rebecca mentioned, it's relatively easy to set up and low cost. There's a gentleman in the lot in Arvada that's the operator, the member of the congregation there, who, when he speaks to groups, he always says it's really easy to do. Those are his words, and I think it's true. I mean, I don't want to give it the image that there's not a little work involved, but it is a matter of setting it up and operating it. It is not burdensome or beyond most congregations' capabilities. So we'd like to suggest, if you're interested in talking more, and what I'd love to do is talk to you individually about your congregation and your possibilities. And so you can, as Rebecca said, you can put your address in the chat, or you can contact us at info@coloradosafeparking.org, and we'll send you these documents that are listed here at the bottom that give you a lot of helpful information and kind of start the conversation. And then we can spend time answering every question you have. And there's never too many questions. We're happy to speak to you individually and help you sort this out and see if it's a possibility. We'd love to do that.
Right. Thanks, Linda. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that we can all just have a conversation now. Thanks to a couple of you who put your email addresses in the chat, which is great. And we will definitely get all of this info to you. And then Linda will contact you to start that further conversation. But now what we'd like to do is answer questions. And I'm sure that many of you have questions that you'd like to ask about the operation of a safe lot and working with this particular population. So who would like to go first?
Oh, I'll jump in. I'm just finished eating my lunch. So my name is Tom Olchner. I'm a member at Trinity Presbyterian Church in Arvada. And this just sounds fascinating and so powerful. Could you give us some idea of kind of the day-to-day maintenance? Do you have someone who stays awake all night or who spends the night? I would assume the lot operator. And I'm guessing you have to have someone there when your lot opens. You have to have a way of kind of cordoning off a part of the lot, just some of the practical day-to-day aspects of managing the lot.
Sure. You want me to take that one, Rebecca?
I think that would be great.
Okay. So great question, Tom. And surprisingly, what we find is that each lot operates differently, depending on their desires for what they want to provide. But generally, the lot, I'll give you an example of one model is the other lot in Arvada. They have a person who's on duty every month, and it rotates. It changes from month to month. That person's responsibility is to accept referrals. If someone is referred to their lot, they set up the interview and issue the person a permit to park there. We don't have people, I mentioned people stay in the lots usually a few months, so the changeover is not very often. If you get a referral, not even one a month. So that job is small. They also, that on-duty person also, if there is a problem, they would respond to it. And again, as I mentioned, there is very few problems. So that's not a huge job either. But the Arvada lot that's operating now, the on-duty person is only there on Tuesday nights and Saturday nights. That's the only time they're at the lot. They are not there in the evenings. They're not there in the mornings. They open on Tuesdays and Saturdays. They open the church. Other volunteers bring a meal, and people have access to the showers inside the church. So that's how that particular church is operating. Another church has does come by every morning and every night, just drives by, looks around, says hello to people, but nobody's at no lot has anyone spending the night. It's not needed. It's not needed that, in California, when they first started their lots, they had all night staff and realized there was nothing to do because people are sleeping. And so they stopped, having all night staff there wasn't needed. So there is one lot, there's two lots that also offer services during the day. They already had those in place though before they opened their safe lots. So those are a little unique in that they are open all day and all night. So they obviously have people there during the day offering their daytime services, which is the one in Golden serves a lunchtime meal, and they have access to a computer room and different clothing bank. They do different things during the day, but generally the volunteer commitment is, while it's 365 days a year, the hourly commitment is not a lot. So
Thank
Great.
you.
I know we had several other hands. Anna, do you want to go next?
I'm just really interested in seeing if I'm seeing so many more families homeless just in parking lots and things like this. And I'm seeing RVs. One of the questions I had was, what is the requirement for accepting RVs? I know you said there was only one lot that's currently doing that. So are we looking for a lot with hookups, or is there just a special situation there?
Yeah. So there are two lots that serve RVs. And those lots are the smaller lots because they're serving RVs. They only have 3 RVs at a time. And as you might have gathered, that, our model is not to provide a permanent location for the RVs. It's to provide temporary sort of emergency services. So there is no hookup. All the lots have access to electricity and water, but not to run a generator or, to hook up water service. It's meant to charge a phone or to charge a computer or to fill a bucket with water. You know what I mean? It's not meant to be what you might experience in an RV lot. So the hope would be to help those folks either move out of the RVs, because I'll tell you, generally it's families that are in the RVs, and the RVs are not in good shape. No. They're, in order to be able to buy them, to be affordable, they're generally from the 80s and 1987 stuff. So they have a lot of problems, and they're not really, for the most part, sustainable living quarters. So our intention is really to help them figure out a way out of the RV. So, and for other families, we have had a couple families in vehicles. And luckily, we're finding that the county human services in each location does have other resources to help families, motel vouchers and things like that. So we're able to, at least right now, we're able to actually move them out of their vehicles and into something else. For families, this is not true for singles or couples or people with disabilities so much, but for families, we do find there are some resources we can access.
Great. So why don't we do Rebecca, and then I think it's Jill from Columbine. So Rebecca, go ahead.
Thank you. Some questions just about logistics. So are they there every evening, or is it like 2 or 3 evenings one week and then they go to a different place other evenings, or how does that work exactly?
Well, when they're issued a permit, they can stay as long as they need to. The spaces are numbered. And so that's their space. Space number 1, say, is for this family. And they know that it's there for them every night until they say they don't need it anymore. So generally they're there every night. Now, occasionally people might have a family member who invites them to stay for the weekend, or they get some kind of bonus at work and they'll go rent a motel room. So occasionally people are out of the lot, but the practice is that we ask the people to communicate with the lot operator, so the lot operator knows they still want their spot. They may be gone for the weekend, but they're coming back. And so, and people, like I said, stay. I don't want to be too specific about the average time, but definitely people stay 2 or 3 months. But we've had people there for 9 months. So it's just taking longer to get them into housing. But anyway, so basically people come every night, they're there, and unless they've communicated something different.
And so I'm imagining most nights, like in my church lot, there's nothing going on in the lot at night, but occasionally, you know, there's a concert or something will be happening to fill up the lot. If I'm understanding correctly, if out of our, I don't know, we've probably got 50 parking spaces. If we had only designated 3 or 4 or 5 of them for our safe parking families, they wouldn't need to move during the concert. We just remember we need to deduct those number of spaces,
Exactly.
the spaces available for other things that would go on. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
I can also imagine someone working the night shift. And so they would be looking for parking, not necessarily during the night, but during the day. How does that fit into this?
Well, we haven't had too many requests for that. But that being said, we had a person staying in the Arvada lot for a long time, and she worked the night shift in Aurora 4 nights a week. So she actually would only stay in the lot in Arvada for 3 nights a week. And the other 4 nights that she was working in Aurora, well, obviously she was sleeping during the day, but she was finding other places to sleep. It's not quite as hard. You're not going to get rousted by the police, or, you know, less likely to be accosted if you're sleeping in your car in a park, you know what I mean, during the day. That being said, the Aurora lot saw a need for that. And so they opened their lot for 24 hours a day to allow people who work nights to sleep there during the day. But they're the only lot that does that. And we're kind of watching to see how that goes. But we have, the request, like I said, I've only, other than what the Aurora lot's doing, I only have heard of one other request where a person was working nights.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can also envision someone having a tent in their car and deciding, boy, it would be more comfortable just to pitch that tent over on the lawn. Does that happen?
Well, it could happen, but we do have rules in the safe lots, and we have rules to protect the integrity of the safe lot itself and for the surrounding community to not, and also there are zoning laws about campgrounds in
Mm-hmm.
places that aren't campgrounds. So pretty much the rules include that people cannot be outside their vehicles at night, sleeping outside their vehicle. And in fact, their property needs to remain in the vehicle. We do have one lot that has storage, so people can remove some things from their car for the night, put them in storage. Some lots have provided some bins so that we don't have it looking as an eyesore to the community or looking like it's a campground when it's not, So, but yeah, the rules are you can't. In fact, most of the lots you can't cook. You can't cook outside your car. You can't have waste disposal of water of any kind. One lot though does have an outside grill and a picnic table, and they invite the safe parkers to use that. But that's different. It's set up for that, but generally it's meant to stay neat and tidy, really is what it, and not become a concern to the community and to the congregation either.
Mm-hmm. And then one last question, and then I'll surrender my time. The issue of bathrooms. Do most churches invite the safe parking guests to come in during a specified period in the evening to use the bathroom, or do they set up a porta potty outside, or kind of what has worked best?
Every lot has porta potties because none of the churches are accessible during the night. And obviously we all know you need to use the bathroom during the night. So the porta potties are there for that purpose. But every lot so far anyway, has provided access to the church. Like I mentioned, the lot in Arvada has access on Tuesdays and Saturdays. And they serve a meal and they set up shower times. People sign up for the showers. The lot in Golden actually has access during the day to their showers and their bathrooms because they offer daytime services. So they're a little unique. But generally it's really up to the church what your capacity, what you can provide, what you have volunteers to to provide those services, and what the church can accommodate as well. If the church is busy every night of the week and it just doesn't work to do that, then that's not, then you make that decision not to open the church to the safe parkers. But really, that's why Rebecca mentioned, we'd like to meet with any church congregation that's interested, so that we can help you through what you can do and what doesn't work for you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Jill. Jill, do you want to ask your questions? Yes.
Yeah, I know a lot of our churches have like preschools in them. Our church specifically, we share a lot with the elementary school that uses our lot, starting at 7 a.m. for school drop off. Do you, what are some of the considerations when you think about, your vulnerable population, cross-pollination stuff?
Sure. We have other churches who are operating schools on their property. And in some way, there's not an interaction because, the safe lot for people are leaving when the school folks are coming, but you sound like yours was a little early, so that there may be a crossover. But I didn't mention that in addition to doing a brief interview with people, we do a criminal background check. And that's shared with the congregation where we're sending the person. And sometimes plays a part in the decision of whether to accept the person. And obviously, the person with a sex offense or some kind of child abuse would not be placed in a lot where there's a school. That would just be the rule. And every lot can say what is their standard for acceptance. If they're just not comfortable with certain things, then we're not asking them to take folks that they don't feel comfortable with. So there's ways to make sure that it stays safe for everybody.
Great, thank you.
I think you had another question.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could talk a little more about, does it make more sense to start with cars and then later consider RVs? And I would assume that people that are living in the RVs, they have to remove the RV during the day, so they would still only be there at night. Or is there more of a desperate need for cars or for RVs? If you could just speak some to those issues.
Sure. Well, I would say there's a desperate need for all of it to respond to that. That being said, I'm working with a church in Lakewood right now who is planning on mixing and having RVs and cars, both. So there's no right or wrong about that. I think it's whatever your lot, if your lot can accommodate an RV, and a couple vehicles, then that's what we would do. If that was your desire, then we would explore that. But like I said, there's no rules about that it has to be one or the other, or it can't be mixed. And to your comment about the RVs being moved in the day, yes, they do. But I will say that that's an ongoing conversation about the challenge of that. It turns out that most of the folks with RVs also have a vehicle. So it might be a consideration. It depends on the location of the lot and what the congregation feels in the neighborhood. It might be a possibility in the future to leave an RV during the day and go in your car to work or wherever they're going, because moving those RVs every night or every morning is challenging. So we're working on that. In California, they do allow the RVs to stay during the day, but the people have to leave and go take care of their business, whatever that might be. But they have some fenced lots in California where they can allow those RVs to stay. But we haven't quite progressed there yet, so there's not a definitive answer on that question.
So Adrian has his hand raised, and we also have a question from Sue in the chat. So Adrian, why don't you go ahead, and then we'll do Sue's question.
So my church is an urban church, and we actually rent out our parking lot during the day to a local business. And I was just wondering if any of the existing sites have a similar arrangement, and have the logistics been tough doing that?
None of them let me think about that for a minute. None of them that I'm aware of have rented out their lots during the day. We do, the lot in Aurora is located at one end of a shopping center. But the spot is designated safe parking all 24 hours a day. So it's not interfering with the other business going on in the shopping center. So that's a good question. And we haven't encountered that yet. But again, I think the rules could address that, because if a lot operates from 6 at night or whatever, then everybody knows that at 6 at night, these 5 parking spots or 10 or whatever are going to be used for safe parking, and they're labeled that way. So probably signage would say during the day, you can't park in this spot after 6 o'clock or something, something to make the space empty to allow the safe parker to come in. So I'm not sure what other challenges there would be with that situation.
Okay, so Sue Ann has asked, how has the neighborhoods around the safe lots responded? And I know we only have 5 minutes left, so this is a question that could take a long time to answer, and it's been different in every community. But I would make a general statement, and Bill and Linda, please disagree with me if I'm wrong, that in general, most of the neighborhoods have, if the congregational leader makes an effort to reach out to the community around the lot, that most of the neighborhoods have been welcoming. And I see Bill nodding his head. The Denver lot, there was some challenge from the neighborhood, but they went through a process with the neighborhood and created a good neighbor agreement with some facilitation from the city and county of Denver that was very helpful. And that ended up being in place before the lot opened. And so this is, again, something that we can talk about more specifically when we have detailed conversations with you about your potential lot. Bill or Linda, do you want to add anything to that?
I think I could. I've been running programs that involve sheltering people who are homeless in congregations for quite a while now, 10 years or so. And the only time that I've seen significant pushback has been the establishment of the tent-based communities in Denver for in the building sheltering, for vehicle parking and the like. Generally just good door-to-door relationships with your neighbors and following the steps that are appropriate in your local land use does the trick. And there usually is no real problem with that.
Any last questions, or we can hand it over to Adrian to close us up? Tom.
Yeah, could you talk just a little bit about, you may have already answered this, Bill, in terms of pushback, but is there any need to get any kind of permit from the city or talk to the police, or are there any zoning issues that have to be addressed?
Yes and no. That it's a very complicated situation. So there are only a few places where permits are required. Denver is one of the few. Otherwise, typically, this is not a permitted issue. Many times, if you are new to a community with the idea, the first thing you will hear from a city council member or a planning board member is something like, you'll need a permit. And then you say, well, yeah, what do you do with other people who are doing this sort of thing? Oh, we've never had this before. And so that becomes an issue under the religious land use law. And there's substantial argument around that. That's a Clinton era federal law that protects religious institutions performing their ministry from being treated differently under land use law than other persons under the same set of laws. And so we find that in almost all cases, there is sometimes some resistance, but normally if we work carefully through the political channels, that it's a very straightforward sort of thing to come to the reality of what this is. It's not going to be disruptive and may even be an enhancement to the neighborhood.
And I will just.
Could I add to that just for one really quickly? I know, Tom, your church is located in Arvada, and when we opened the first lot in Arvada, we met with code enforcement for the city of Arvada, and we did get some, oh, you can't do that, you can't have a campground, you can't have people sleeping in your car. We got a lot of pushback, and within 24 hours, the code enforcement officer, Ron Avia, came back to us and said, nope, you guys can do this. You're not in violation of anything, and we totally support you. And the Arvada Police Department has done nothing but support us in Arvada. So I don't think there would be. We would certainly notify them if you were opening the safe lot, but for their support. But that's all we need to do in Arvada.
Yeah, in general, the police have been very supportive of the lots. They see this as a huge plus in terms of not having to move folks along and to actually having a place where people can be safe, because they want that too.
And we're making their job easier. I mean,
yeah, exactly. All right, well, it's 1 o'clock. Adrienne, I'll hand it over to you to close us up. Thank you everybody so much for your interest and your wonderful questions. Thanks to Bill and Linda for their incredible expertise, and we'll look forward to continuing the conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. And I'm getting something that my bandwidth is low, so I hope this goodbye is not long and drawn out, but I just want to thank all of you for joining us. And we've recorded this, so what we're going to do is we're going to download this and put it on the Council of Churches YouTube channel so that people can view it later. So if you have other colleagues in ministry who you think might be interested, please let them know that we'll make this widely available. So thank you for joining us today, and I hope you have a good day. And this went really well, and I hope to have more lunch and learns in the future. So thank you so much. God bless you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Excellent job, everybody.